Hey there, welcome back to another review. This will probably be a pretty short one. I just wanted to do this real quick, give my thoughts on this film, Nintendo Quest. This is a movie, it's a documentary, and I put it in air quotes because it's really not much of a documentary. You don't really learn that much when it comes to this movie. Um, it's not really a film that really you don't learn anything really that new, especially if you're a gamer. You pretty much already kind of know about kind of the stuff that this film talks about. Um, there's very little new knowledge that's revealed when you watch this movie. This film is this this is disappointing. This is a disappointing movie because I like the concept of it, and this is a film that was actually funded through Kickstarter. Thank God I was one of the people who helped fund it. I'm glad I didn't put my money into this, but it was helped funded by Kickstarter, and basically what it was is this documentary where you follow this big Nintendo fan, Jay Bartlett, who lives in Canada. He's a Canadian. And in this case, I guess I can blame Canada. Uh, but he's a Canadian, and he lives he's like in BC. I think it was like where is it? It's Ontario. Is it Ontario? No, it's not Ontario. He lives in another. Oh shit! It's not in Ontario, but it's a different. It's definitely somewhere in Canada. So he's a Canadian, and he's a really big fan of Nintendo games. He's a really big fan of the original Nintendo, the NES. And so I guess he, along with his friend, decided to put together a Kickstarter to help fund this movie, Nintendo Quest, which is going to follow Jay Bartlett around across country, around Canada, and in some places in the United States, and he's going to be given this mission to find every single Nintendo game in 30 days. And that's pretty much what the whole gist of the documentary is. It's more of a not really a documentary, more of a reality show. It's kind of shot in that way. It's just kind of disappointing in that regard. It's marketed as a documentary. It's not really a documentary. It's more of a reality show. Um, I know a lot of people have a problem with this, like they compare it to think it's a ripoff of some show called Game Chasers. I've never seen Game Chasers, but but from what I've heard about Game Chasers, I think I'll probably like it more than this. Because the big problem with this is that, for one, you have a shitty host who is just Jay's friend, Rob, Rob McCallum. I think that's who it is, and he's just not a good narrator. So he's your narrator, and the guy's really not that great at narrating, and he just is so green and just I don't know why they didn't hire an actual narrator, because it's just like, hey, it's my buddy, my friend, hey, and he decided this is his idea for the movie. So I guess he decided since it was his idea for the movie, he should be the one to narrate it, even though he's maybe really might not be the best guy to narrate. He's not comfortable on camera, and it shows. And so his narration is stilted, it doesn't feel natural, and it's a thing that definitely does hurt the film. Then you have the lead himself, who is such a sad sack, who's got some psychological issues he's dealing with that I don't think any amount of Nintendo games are gonna fix, really is what hurts the film so much. Is that your lead, if you're gonna make a documentary or even a reality show like you know like this, for instance, like a reality show style movie where you follow around somebody on a mission, that person should be captivating. That person should be interesting to watch. That person should be entertaining. And no offense to Jay, but he's not any of those things. He really isn't. He's not any of those things. So he's just a very withdrawn, introverted type personality. So when he gets these games, his reactions are so boring. It's just like, oh yay, hey look, this is a really good deal I got. This is one of the best deals, lately. It's a very nonchalant, way of reacting to such an amazing opportunity to be able to go across the country on a road trip with your friends and look for Nintendo games, and you have a certain budget, and there you go. That sounds like fun. That's like a giant that's a hunt. I love hunts. I love hunting for things. Well, I wish there was a VHS quest, a horror VHS quest, or how about a Laserdisc quest? Why can't I do that? I mean, I trust me. I think I would be more engaging than this guy, because his reactions are just they're boring. He gets some great deals, and he's just like, "Oh, I got some good deals today. I think this is the best store to date. Yeah, this is the best one. I'm really looking forward to this one. I've been looking for this one most of my life. This is really good. I really like that. That's good. Yeah. Um, it's just boring. It's a boring movie. It's forgettable. You don't remember anything about it. It's a letdown. Um, in a lot of ways because of the main guy. It's just not very fun to watch. And the direction is pretty flat. It feels like it's two different sort of films. You have the stuff when it comes with him on the road trip, the road trip looking for the games, and then he goes back and forth with the director, McCallum, Robert McCallum, who's going around being a shitty narrator, and then every now and then you learn a few little bits of information about maybe how Nintendo came to the United States and how like a certain game is called a certain, a little bit about Little Samson, the video game, and that's really about it. I'll give the film one thing. I think the production values are pretty good for, whatever amount of money they had. I like the transitions. I like the editing. I like the way that they had when they're showing these facts, they have like 8-bit animated sort of sequences, and I like those. I like the little interviews with other collectors and other people who were more interesting to watch and listen to than our lead, than the main guy, Jay. And if that isn't bad enough, the film also doesn't even tell you how much his budget is. So th this movie probably was funded, a lot of this was funded from Kickstarter. So he might have been using people's money that they gave to the film so he could go around, drive around and buy a bunch of games, which is kind of messed up. Uh, but you never know how much he's using. There's this little graphic on the bottom of the screen that shows like I like an 8-bit setup where it shows like a power, almost like a power bar, and it shows how much money there is. And then every now and then when he buys a certain game, you'll see a graphic of the Nintendo game, and then it was a purchase, and then it adds into the collection. Because there's a counter on the bottom of the screen. And there's like over 300, I think there's like over 678 official license, retail license games. Nintendo games. And so every time one is bought, it goes down, shows up on the counter on the bottom of the screen, and then, shows that he acquired it. But you never know how much he paid for these. You don't know how much money he spent. You don't know what his budget is. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. And if that isn't bad enough, I mean, eventually he doesn't get all of the games because he tries to get something like stadium events, which is like the holy grail of Nintendo games, so to speak. And he tries to get that, but the guy is understandably being like, give me the money first, then I'll give you the game. But the deal falls through, and the film spends way too much time with our main guy, Jay, on the phone, talking to this guy, trying to work out a deal. Jay talking about, I don't want to do this deal. I decided, we're not going to get stadium events from this guy. He wants me to come over fly all the way to Florida, and this is just not the story that I want for this game, because I want every game that I find to have a particular story to it, and this is not the story that I want. So it was just a bunch of who gives a shit. I don't care. Should just, I don't know. Should have just had like just too much of the running time for me personally was spent with this back and forth at the stadium events. That eventually he does get stadium events. He gets it from this other collector guy, I think in New York somewhere, and I know I think it's Indiana. It's in Indiana, not New York. So, and this guy's got a really cool place. He's got a really cool setup and everything. And what's kind of cool, what was the coolest thing about the movie for me was seeing all these stores, seeing all these game stores, you know. And he's going to like these used retail stores, and then I'm going in, and then like he's looking at the games, and in the background there's like these giant shelves of DVDs, and I'm like, I want to look at the DVDs. Fuck the Nintendo games, I want to look at the DVDs. But that's because I was so bored. I was so bored by this guy. He's about as enthralling as watching paint dry. And then to make matters worse, for some stupid reason, this film decides to really go personal. Like in the middle or like a little bit an hour in or something, all of a sudden it drops a bombshell that Jay's talking about his dad and how his dad didn't like him and how his dad didn't like video games and how he wished he wished he would, but now he's glad that he's dead. I mean, really, he says that. I'm glad he's dead. I mean, you're like, what the hell is this? This doesn't paint your main guy in a good light. It looks like it makes him look like he has serious issues. And why is this even in this movie? Why is this here? You're breaking one of the main rules of these type of documentaries. It's supposed to be fun and adventurous and entertaining, which this film isn't really honestly isn't any of those things. Uh, but you don't do that. I didn't end up liking it that much, it doesn't mean that you should do that. That's just a dumb idea. You don't personalize a documentary like that, especially when it's all about it just is out of place. This is totally out of place. The film stops. The film comes to a screeching halt at the moment that he starts talking about his dad and how bad his dad was. And then it go then I'm supposed to just, oh, okay, all right, drop that bombshell, everything's gonna be fine from now on. No, the film never recovers from that, and then it just continues with this depressing shit. Like it just keeps adding this personal shit, like and it doesn't even do it. I mean, for example, Jay has a dog of his that was sick. And so before the last day of, the last day that he had to find the games, Rob is here on a webcam footage explaining to whoever, I guess to the people watching the movie, that he won't, his dog isn't feeling very good, so so, Jay's not feeling very good or whatever. And like, what is the point of this? This is unnecessary. Yeah, and then afterwards you get a little rest in peace to his dog thing, and then it goes back to the last day, starts the last day of him looking for games. I'm like, this is just disjointed and weird. What are you doing? This is just bad editing. This is editing 101. You don't do that. If you're gonna do dedicated to the memory of something, you do it at the end of the movie. You don't do it in like 10 minutes before the end credits or something. I mean, that's stupid. But yeah, that editing, just the whole thing with him and his dad, the whole thing with his dog dying and being sick, and then in memory of his dog thing, and then cutting to him the final day where he's trying to look for some more games. It's just like, why is this even here? There's no rhyme or reason for this. Especially the way that it is in the film, the way that it's set up. And then he doesn't collect all of the games. He gets almost all of them, but he wasn't able to get like 20 or something. But he gets stadium events. He doesn't get stadium events yet, but then eventually he saves up money and it goes back to the same guy in Indiana, and he buys stadium events. He gets stadium events from him. and he also buys the other titles that he wasn't able to find on eBay. So now he has a complete collection. And then the movie ends with cut interviews with collectors, which is more entertaining than a lot of the stuff that was actually in the film. I mean, there's a little interview with 8-Bit Eric, a YouTuber who I have been getting into his videos lately. He's a nice guy. He does some good. He does some good reviews. I wish he was the guy, was the main guy who the documentary crew is following around, always trying to find all the Nintendo games. I'm pretty sure he would make it a lot more entertaining because he has something called a personality, something that Jay is sadly devoid of for the most part. So yeah, so you have stuff with 8-Bit Eric, you have some other interviews with a few other, Nintendo collectors and so forth and so on. And you have a little fun 8-bit animated end credit sequence with a nice little music choice. For the most part, the score is pretty good, and I like those 8-bit animations that are in the film, and the little bits of trivia that could maybe constitute this as a documentary were kind of interesting, and they were well set up. But Robert McCallum's a shitty narrator, and he's a bad host. Jay Bartlett is a guy who is just not a very interesting person. It's not a person you want to follow around for over an hour and a half. And I guess for not really an hour and a half. I mean, an hour and 31 minutes. Without the credits, of like an hour and 20 some minutes, but it drags. It feels really long. It's not as much fun as it could be. And that's the thing. I thought it would be a fun movie. You go on a fun road trip with a enthusiastic Nintendo fan, and no, what you got is just this guy who's like, "Hey, I got these games, woo!" But anyway, thank you for watching my review of Nintendo Quest. I really don't know what to say. I don't know if I was to review the movie at 5 stars. It gets 2. It's not a film that I hated. There were some things that I didn't like it, but it wasn't completely worthless because there was some of the stuff at the end credits, some of the other interviews with some of the other gamers was fun. Some of the little 8-bit animations. In the beginning, I was kind of interested in the journey, but then after a while, Jay Bartlett's just really boring personality just ended up sucking the life out of me, and then the film's really bad decision to personalize the film and to add this personal drama into it was just really, really uncalled for, and that was one of the main things that just ended up just really killing the film for me. But yeah, it's disappointing, but it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not something I ever want to see again. Anyway, yeah, 2 out of 5 stars, piss poor. That's what that I hate to say it, but that's pretty much what it is. It's a poor film for the most part. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later. See ya.